Super League spotlight shining so bright. Interviews and news, come join the hype.
Hello and welcome to, I think, episode 11 now of the Super League Spotlight. Rona, how are we this week?
Wonderful. Delighted. Back at school, back in the swing of things. Had a game on Monday night. Yeah, it's going well. New year, new positivity. My
Can
new
you can you
positivity is just to pretend I'm positive.
can you move after the game on Monday night?
Just about. The problem is all my exercise falls on Monday because I go to the gym in the morning because they do like a class where you can take the
Yeah.
wee ones and it was all cleans work. So pulling from the floor and the last part of it was because it was CrossFit, 30 squat cleans for time. So by the time I got to my game on Monday, I wasn't very
Mhm.
capable of moving. And yeah, I'm no spring chicken, but we're fine. We move. We move.
You should try my technique of just not doing any of that.
I actually find I'm worse. See if I haven't exercised, like my back seizes up and everything. It's bad. Like, yeah, I've learned the hard way. I just need to keep moving. Maybe not at those extremes, but I do need to just keep moving.
Fair enough. Right, today's episode then, we're going to do two things. We've got our review of last week's action, and then we've got our very special guest, the head coach of the Durham Palatimates, Lee Davie, joining us in a little bit. So that's exciting.
It is indeed. I'm very much looking forward to it.
But let's start with last weekend's action and six games. Just have a quick look through, and we've got starting with Durham and Caledonia. Caledonia making the short-ish trip to the northeast and taking the win back to Scotland, 85-68. I was obviously at this game. Um, Ree Harris, like proper player.
hmm Very athletic when
Hmm.
they get into it, and maybe slightly less convincing the week before. So it was nice to see them bounce back. But my question for you was, how did you enjoy the game, seeing as you were there, and comms and various other bits and pieces with that?
So obviously we had a little issue with the stream at first. Um, the issue with the signals of the microphone blocking out the street or something. I don't understand the technical side of it, but we did get by the second quarter. We were kind of fully up and running. Um, so the first quarter, I was a bit just here, there, and everywhere, trying to keep an eye on the game, but trying to fix the issues, or well, trying to be there when someone else tried to fix the issues. But as I said, Rehouse massively stood
Mhm.
out. 20-point performance, I think it was, and as you say, just really athletic. I think Durham winning that fourth quarter kind of gave them again some positives from the game, gave
Mhm.
them something to because I keep saying on here, Durham have been competitive in most games, and they've got a lot to kind of be happy with this season. And again, that just gave them that little confidence, probably going into the Sunday game.
hmm And I think as well, fair play to them, knowing that they were going into a game the next day and they had a road trip that, it could have been very easy mentally to be like, right, the game's gone,
Hmm.
save ourselves. But actually, the fact that you say they came 27-16, they took that last quarter.
Yeah.
The only other things I'd highlight, Cat Shooter's shooting 83% from the floor,
Hmm.
to give her 15 points. And yeah, everyone who hit the court scored for the Gladiators. Um, yeah, apart from Katie on the Durham side, everybody scored, so people were putting points up. 7-person rotation, I thought was key for Durham, actually having slightly more players to bleed in. Sarah obviously having 12, Harriet 15 and 8. Yeah, you'd mentioned before about Harriet maybe not shooting as much as you'd
Hmm.
have liked to have seen. What did you feel?
No, yeah, I mean, she played what 77 minutes across the weekend, Harriet, and it seemed like she was, I think, was about 14 points on the Sunday as well. And yeah, I do feel like she possibly was a little bit back to Harriet of last season,
Mhm.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
positive.
Caledonia got the win, which obviously, as you say, not as convincing last week, so it was good to see them back up and running properly in the new year. Um, Next, Cardiff, Essex. Again, probably the way we thought it was going to go, 97-60. Lauren Park
Uh,
Lane standout go. What
60 points.
60 over the 50 points.
Takes a lot to get me to tweet at the weekend or X at the weekend or whatever it is. But I was like, nah, they've gone out. And there's a lot of positives we take from Cardiff at the moment. So I doff my cap to them.
I love that. Every week we have a doff of your cap.
Yes. I'm gonna have to get a cap to doff.
You need to. But yeah, Lauren Park Lane stand out for Essex. Some big numbers from her, but again, a huge team performance from Essex with lots of players contributing.
Yeah, and I guess what I thought stood out to me, and I guess it does help when you're winning as opposed to your back's against the wall, but Essex went 64% from 2 point land, 45% from 3 point land, whereas the week before and their loss to Gladiators were 48 and 31%, like
Hmm.
respectively. So I think, it does show that Essex have that firepower. We've maybe lost that recently from them. The losses are sort of stacking up a bit. Wins maybe not as convincing, but I think, yeah, between their London game and this Cardiff game, hopefully they've built, a bit more confidence there with that Gladiators in the middle. And Essex only shot 11 more shots than Cardiff, so, vastly better percentages there.
So Cardiff obviously moved to play up against Durham this weekend as well. So interesting to see how they kind of take confidence from bursting through that 50 point and getting to the 60-point barrier.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
and then they
mean,
might turn around and Steph Collins play, but what's it matter? We got the win with 48, so
yeah.
pipe down, Rona, with your 60s. But I think even for them to be putting more points on the board, because then they will compete with more teams.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, for me, weirdest team of the season has to be Riders so far.
I
Like,
think we mentioned it last
we'll
week
come
about
to
the
that, I'm sure.
inconsistency, but yeah, we will. But
Yeah,
absolutely, I agree with you. Hard to know what's going to happen in their games.
yeah.
But let's go with Auckland's Manchester. Obviously, we highlighted this game as one to watch out for because it's obviously two of the
Mhm.
top teams. Auckland's remain unbeaten. Their unbeaten run continues, 83 to 74.
Yeah, and I think when I was delving into it, because when I looked, you're looking at where Manchester sit in the standings and stuff, I'm like, how are they so low down? But then they've taken losses as well to
Mhm.
the Riders, you know. So
Newcastle.
Riders, yeah, and then Riders go and lose to Cardiff and various, and then Riders go and be Gladiators. So it's actually a really interesting league at the moment. I mean,
Hmm.
Auckland are still sitting that cut above, but I don't think they necessarily look unbeatable, whereas last season you look at the London Lions, but I mean, of course, budgetary wise, everything they were built towards
Hmm.
was vastly different. But you were like, yeah, I don't see them dropping a game ever. Plus, if you kept that team this season as well, etc. But I do think Oakland's look like they could be beaten.
Yeah.
At some point, teams are running them close, but credit to Oakland's, they're finding ways to win. And whether that's by a 50-point margin or that's by their 9-point margin, they're getting it done. And that's all at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win by one or if you win by 100. You just need that W in the win
Yeah,
column.
I think that score possibly is a little bit deceiving
Hmm.
because Manchester won that last quarter by 16 points. So the
Hmm.
deficit could have actually been
Yes.
a bit bigger as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, Opens do look impressive, but I agree with you, they don't look unbeatable.
Hmm.
Right, Newcastle back to winning ways,
Hmm.
89 to 64 against Nottingham at the Virtue Motors Arena on Saturday night. That Jada Gwynn again.
I know when I was it first couple of halves, the first couple of quarters when I watched, she was just killing them on that sort of fast break, and she was just pulling up in jump shots.
Hmm.
And then another day they might not go in, depending on how you're feeling, but you could tell she was feeling it, and that's why, she came in with 34 points and an index
Yeah.
of 39. But I feel Nottingham were doing well on trying to exploit Eagles inside, where we know they maybe don't have that same presence. But Eagles probably stuck to their task better of exploiting Nottingham's guards and managing to turn them over and break them up the
Mhm.
court. But the other thing I wrote down, and it's not positive negative or negative positive, but Tara Hodges didn't have a double double. I mean, I had to actually write that. I was like, she did not have a double double. Like, that blows my mind. She had 24 and
I was going to
9.
say, still had 24 points though.
Yeah, and 9 rebounds. But that's what you just are so used to being like, how many did she get? And then I was like, oh,
Double double
that's a
for you.
single, that's a single figure. But yeah, but that's what I mean. I feel like Nottingham maybe did that better job trying to secure boards, things like that. Ashley Lewis, 12 and 17. You know, good numbers there, 17 boards, but she was pipped to the post by Tyre Singleton, 20 boards. Because I was like, that's two
Yeah.
big rebounding performances from two different players, one on a winning side and one on a losing side. So yeah, some big rebounding performances this weekend.
Yeah, I I did some number crunching before, and I mean it's a short sample size, but before Chloe Gaynor as head coach, Gina
Hmm.
Gwynn was averaging 12 points a game.
Hmm.
Now with Chloe Gaynor as head coach, 24 points a game.
That's some return, isn't
But as
it?
I said, it's a very small sample size before Chloe, but well, I'm taking that as Chloe Gaynor is a master of getting the best out of her players.
Yeah, and I would say I think you'll agree that she looks like she's heavily into that coaching role as opposed to
Yeah.
player coach, which I think, yeah, good because it's a tough line to tread. Um, so no, and it's
But
working, so why wouldn't you?
it will be interesting though when you just mentioned there about taking advantage of Newcastle's like inside, and
Hmm.
obviously Chloe would
Hmm.
potentially help solve that a little bit, but it'd be interesting to see if that is it now for Chloe playing wise, or
Hmm.
whether there'll come a point where she'll be like, right, I can make a difference to this team still.
Hmm.
Be interesting. Right. Oh, did you see my tweet? Or what should we just say it's tweet?
What one? What one, Mark?
But the Nottingham one, why are they still
What was?
wearing Kappa kits?
Do you know what? I replied to that in my head like 6 times. I was like, "Did you not know there's a spot the difference competition that you're just clearly not aware of? You have won an Easter egg." But I think that's a great question, but I'm still like looking at teams, unless they've officially said, and it's usually from the men's side, being like, here are our new Reebok kits, blah 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 blah. They've got
Hmm.
pinstripes usually. I feel like I don't know if teams have got their new kits or not, or if it's just a Reebok
Hmm.
logo. That was me throwing some shade there, wasn't it? But I'm just like,
You need
is
those
this your new
Reebok kits.
the pinstripes? I'm like, have you got your new Reebok kits or just your Reebok kits? I know sometimes there's been issues, and that's why there's been some number changes,
Hmm.
so that they were playing in older strips, various teams, so that's why their numbers are maybe rostered different, which is really helpful for commentating. And they turn up and like, so, and then the warm ups are different. Anyway, but that's not important in the grand scheme of the world. To answer your question, the short answer is who knows?
Who knows?
I would assume kit supply issues
Hmm.
haven't turned up because a lot of the strips just look like they've had the Reebok logo added on from last season, apart from the ones where they have had their new kit arrive. So who
Mm.
knows?
Be interesting to find out though. Right, let's game number 5 of the weekend. 106 to 37, Sheffield. Huge win against London.
Hmm.
And that huge rebounding performance from Singleton, as you mentioned earlier, but to go along with it, the 34 points.
Hmm.
Um, I guess what we expected.
Hmm. Yeah, you could just leave it as succinct as that. I think
Mm,
Taya Singleton is this her finding her groove. That's 2 games in a row she's sort of gone off. Georgia Gale came off the bench. Shauna Harrison back in the rotation, 17 and 5. Some positive things there. London, that's unfortunately their biggest loss, which is 2 points more. So they lost to Gladiators by 67. But I potentially, with a new coach coming in, do you think it could, I mean, some of them are coming in and winning straight away, but do you think they might have to be a few steps backwards? With a new coach potentially coming in, putting in their own systems, new plays, players getting used to them. It is
mm,
quite a young and inexperienced team or super experienced team, but maybe not played to certain styles before.
yeah,
So maybe it's going to have, plus it's Sheffield, plus maybe it's just going to take a while,
yeah.
sort of like a slingshot mentality, go back a few steps to hopefully propel
Move
themselves
forward.
forwards. But you're still getting, is it Maisie Spinks putting in good performances? You're still getting players being consistent,
Hmm.
which is tough to do when you're only putting up 37 points, 57 points. But them in Cardiff, that'll be another good matchup. Because Dan Petts will have another couple of games under his belt, and yeah, see how it goes.
And finally, the weekend was finished with Leicester against Durham, and we've just mentioned Leicester, but Durham got the away victory. Um, yeah, huge. Obviously, double headers are always difficult. That 7 player rotation that Durham are playing with at the moment, and just the incredible inconsistency of the Leicester Riders.
I don't know where it came from, and I will hold my hands up because weirdly I had like some sort of life that I also have to do at the weekend, so as well as watching all these games. And I had switched off the Leicester Durham game at the half, and I was like, Leicester when they ascendancy, they were up because of what was it? It was a 17 point swing between
Yeah.
half time and end of the game. And I was like, okay, and they were nailing shots left, right, and centre. They're up off the bench. Durham just looked a bit like, okay, this is getting tough, but Durham then they found a gear. They turned it on and they got going. Fair play, credit to them. That is not an easy way to grind out a win.
Mhm.
And do you know what? Keeps the league exciting, doesn't it? Because you just do not know. And I think it makes riders quite dangerous insofar as what on earth are we coming out to? Like, as a player, I'd be like, who's turning up today? Like that lack of there's a part of me that would be like certainty. So,
Mhm.
like if you're going out to play the best team at the moment in the league or a team that's really struggling, whereas you're just like, what is coming at me? I have no idea
Mhm.
what is going to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wrote down the turnover figures for this game:
Hmm
27 Leicester, 12 Durham. Huge
hmm
difference in those numbers. Um, Shanique Lucas, 25 points, 9 assists, I think it was. Or it might have been rebounds. I haven't written that bit down. I just wrote nine. That's helpful, isn't it?
You're like the Instagram posts where they just change up the order of things.
What are the
And I
player of the
just,
week ones?
yeah, but I just assume it's going to be points, rebounds, assists, or steals. And then they do like points, assists, rebounds, or points, steals, assists. And I'm like, aha.
I was
Um,
waiting for Rona's rant of the week.
that's not a rant. That is just an observational point.
An observational of something that's quite annoying.
This is me trying to be more positive, Mark. I'm trying to just be positive.
Happy New Year.
Ah, Happy New Year.
Right, so we've just talked about Durham and finding that way to get that away win. Let's welcome head coach Lee Davie to the show now. Hello, Lee, and welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
We've just finished talking about your game against Leicester on Sunday, finding a way to win, the comeback victory. How was it for you?
It was good. It was a back and forth. I wasn't sure at some point whenever we got it back to either 2 points, tie game, up two, and then they kept pulling away. I wasn't sure if we were going to have the energy to kind of pull it off in the end because it's physically and emotionally draining to put yourself in that hole, then dig yourself out, then you go back in the hole, and you go dig yourself back out again. And it happened about 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the game. But the girls really kind of showed a lot of grit there and determination to try and pull this out of the bag. And I think it was it that we were down one with 2.5 minutes to go, I think. And then Eliza hit those back-to-back threes, and we went up five, scored again. Then they scored pretty late on with 20 seconds to go. But yeah, it was good. It was I'm really happy for them. So I feel like we're close to turning the corner. We're not there yet, but it's coming, and it's coming soon.
And on the back of a double header as well, that kind of adds to that um, kind of, I guess, impressiveness of the victory.
Yeah, I feel, the fourth quarter on Saturday was our best quarter by a million miles. So I kind of took that again as a positive that we got to where we wanted to get to in the end, and then were we then able to then carry that forward into Sunday's game? And we didn't, we could have been and probably should have been up 15 or 20 in that first quarter because we missed 7 or 8 wide open layups, and then we there was 4 or 5 wide open threes that you'd back yourself to make at least, if there was four, you'd back yourself to make at least two, and with the other layups that we missed. So I think I think the score was 12-6 at one point, and with maybe 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. And I thought, well, I'm not going to burn the timeout now because if we score here, it's 12-8, and then if we score again, it's 12-10. But in fairness to Leicester, they pulled away and opened up, I think it was 9 points maybe at the end of the first. But yeah, it was impressive to kind of like from a coaching perspective, there wasn't really the need to panic in that first quarter because we were creating the opportunities. The ball wasn't going in. So if we hadn't have been created them, then I would have been a bit more concerned. But the fact is, we were just missing wide open shots that on any other day would the majority of would have went in. So you felt kind of confident and that we at some point you kind of felt it was going to click. But like I said, when it was going back and forth, when we are getting there, then they pull away again. You kind of like, oh, is this going to be our day? Do we mentally and physically have it in us to kind of get over the hump here and take the lead and hold on to the lead? So, but yeah, it's good. It's a good start to the new year.
Yeah, we were just talking a bit about Leicester as well. We can't kind of work out Leicester this season. They're very up and down, very wins against Caledonia, Manchester, but then losses against Cardiff. We can't kind of work out Leicester this season.
I think everyone's had their blip. Other than I was thinking about this, other than Oakland's.
Mhm.
Everyone's had blips. Caledonia have been up and down. They've had an up and down spell. Leicester have had an up and down spell. Manchester have had an up and down spell. Sheffield had a blip before, just before Christmas, where they dropped a game or two that they weren't expecting to drop, or they'd probably back themselves to win.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, there's inconsistency, but I think, this year as opposed to the last 2 years, it's more competitive. I think across the board, everyone's capable of taking wins off everybody because, like you said, Leicester beat Caledonia, Caledonia beat us, then we beat Leicester. So, everyone's got it in them to kind of take wins off each other. So, which is good. It's good for the league and it forces everybody to show up on every game day. Because if you don't, then you can be exposed and today can be your bad day.
Yeah, makes it more exciting for us.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right, let's go kind of back early in your career. When did basketball first become a thing in your life?
Oh, it was secondary school. Yeah, nine. I remember it. So in Northeast, born and bred. I know I don't sound like it, but I am. And f curriculum-wise, for us in school was football till October half term and the dark nights. Then when the dark nights kicked in, it was basketball from October through to Feb half term. Then the light nights came back and football was back, and then you go into the summer sports. So it was really basketball for me. Like before year nine, I would play football every day. Like as soon as like it's different nowadays, and kids just like they just don't understand. Like as soon as school was out, it was knock on the door. Are you coming out to play? And we play football to till the street lights come on, and that was it. But once I got into basketball at year nine and really kind of fell in love with it there. I went to people may know him now, but Paul Douglas, Dougie, City of Birmingham. So he used to play for Sunderland and then the Eagles. So he had his basketball academy in Gateshead, Newcastle. So from kind of year nine onwards, I was playing basketball 6 nights a week, and I was traveling, and it wasn't a case of like parents are taking me and picking me up and driving. So I was, as soon as school was out, I was walking to the bus. I was getting a bus to a metro. I was getting the metro to Gateshead Stadium, and I'm walking to the stadium. And, that was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I was back at the stadium. Sunday we practiced at Gateshead Low, and these were isn't that like a 60 minute to a 90-minute commute each way.
Mhm.
So, and it was all public transport and all. So that I fell in love with basketball then and got into a great environment with a lot of great people that, John Paul Heron, referee, he was one of my coaches at one point or another. John Palmer, who's another Northeast-based referee, he was a teammate of mine. So there's still that connection now. Ben Stanley, Leicester. Ben and I went to East Durham Basketball Academy together in 99 till 2001. So I've known Ben for, 23, 24 years. And there's loads of different kind of basketball connections up and down the country that were born out of either Paul Douglas Sports Development Academy or East Durham Basketball Academy that I'm still in touch with now. But I got to 2001. Our team had won there used to be an under 20s National League division when I was under 20. And in our final year we won the national championship. But then I knew deep down there was more longevity in coaching for me than playing. So I made the commitment, 21, that I wanted to move into coaching. And if you want to coach National League, but then also play National League, both of those things are on at the same time. So it wasn't possible to do both. So I made the shift into coaching. Um, I worked for Wickham Basketball Academy or Basketball Club in just outside of Newcastle, where I coached under 40, under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, under 18 boys, National League. I got burnt out after a couple of years and I took an 18-month break. And at the time when I was out, the club had started to develop a girls program, but there was nobody that wanted to coach them because the stigma is definitely still around, but nowhere near to the degree now. But nobody just wanted to coach girls. And I was like, well, nobody, I never had a chance early on, and somebody took a chance on me. So I want to get into this and give these girls an opportunity to play because It is. It's, everyone should have the opportunity. That's one of the best things about our sport. So I got into coaching girls basketball 2005, I think it was. And we had a under 16, under 14, under 16 program, as it kind of still is now to a degree, that they weren't as competitive. You're traveling. We were traveling to Manchester and we're playing against Georgia Jones. It's under 16 and under 18. Well, not a fun experience. Then we're going to Ellesmere Port, and in fact, I remember one home game. You've got both the Leadham sisters are playing. Then you're in a triangular tournament against Ellesmere Port with the Leadhams. And then you've got Manchester Mystics, and you've got Georgia, Charlotte Stoddart, Rhiannon Bailey, like all those, Hannah Short, like all those people back then. This was my experience. So the girls that we had in the early stages, there were no match for the likes of those players. But as we got older, and I'm the type of person I don't believe in no-win situations. I feel like we can. There's always a way to compete. There's always a blueprint. Whether the window of winnability is big or small, there's a window. Sometimes the stars have to align for things to go your way, but sometimes you've got more. There's more room for error. So I kept plugging away with these teams, and each year we got closer and closer. And then by the time we got to under 18, we were a competitive team we made the playoffs. Um, but that was my introduction to coaching girls basketball at the time. And during that time, I got put forward to be an assistant coach for the England under 15 girls development squad. And the head coach at the time was Joe Leadham's coach, Jimmy McGinn. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. He took me under his wing. We worked together for 18 months. In that first year, again, you're working with the likes of Renee Bush, Rhiannon Bailey again was there. Oh, Christina Gaskin. There's so many. Harriet Otterswell Salisbury. I've known Harriet, and Leah McDermott. I've known Leah since she was 11, 12. Nicolette Fairley, again, 13. All these players that are kind of seniors now, I worked with back in, I think it would have been 2006, 2007. So I was using those experiences working with Jimmy. He was showing me what it was like, how he did things, the culture he had, the practice environment, the game plans he had. So then I was taking that experience back from that top end England age groups, and then taking that back to my club. And then because I was working with under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, and I was coaching both boys and girls at that time, I was gaining a lot of practical experiences. Every week I was taking, 6 to 8 practices a week. I was coaching 4 to 5 games a week. So I was gaining a lot of experience in a short space of time, which then allowed me to kind of grow as a coach. And from then I've just kind of kept building on that. Over the years, I've done club basketball, what used to be the area performance centers, which is now the Aspire sessions. I've been a regional head coach. I've been an England under 15 girls development head coach. I've been an England under 16 head coach. I've been a Great Britain under 20s assistant coach. I've been a performance analysis for Great Britain under 20 women as well. So I've had loads of different experiences working from grassroots participation in primary schools to then work, and in the same year I could be working with Great Britain under 20 women at the same time. So that's allowed me, that breadth of experiences has allowed me to kind of refine a lot of things over the years. Primary schools has allowed me to, when you're working with children, as you both will know, working in education, especially the younger children, the language you use with children, the descriptions of what you're asking for, the visual impressions you're trying to create, the visual demonstrations you're trying to demonstrate, has helped me massively with the older kids and the higher education kids and the national team kids, because if you can explain something well at primary school level and they get it, then it should be easier and easier because that's the most difficult age group to work with, like because they've got no visual experiences, they've got no basketball experiences at all. So if you can explain it and they can grasp it and they can run with it, then that's allowed me to kind of work with the higher end and really be able to communicate effectively with them and get on the same page with each other. So I think every level's got something to teach you. Again, at primary school level, I love it. I don't do it. I do it a lot. Well, I do it a lot more now with my wife's company, but ultimately, I never used to do it. I'd maybe do it once a year, but I used to always enjoy going back to it because there's just in sheer enjoyment. Like, there's no agendas. Nobody's caring about playing time. Nobody cares about minutes, roles, responsibilities. It's just the pure enthusiasm and enjoyment of the game. And, I often found going back to primary school so much more enjoyable when everything, the team's not going as well or the practices aren't going as well because it's a rejuvenation. It's a big caffeine boost, like going back in there and seeing the pure love of the game makes you remember why you're in it, why everybody else that you're working with is in it. Um, so yeah, there's been a lot of experiences. So I think this will be year 27 coaching wise, and I've been coaching since 1998 when I first started.
That's impressive. I really like what you said about the teaching thing because I teach all the way through. And people are
Mm.
always, oh, what do you prefer, primary or secondary? And I'm like, I love primary because it's just, I mean, they bounce off the walls and you need to be ready for them.
Yeah.
But like you say, and I think also sometimes people forget that we still want that joy as adults and whatever. And I think that's why people fall out of sport because you lose that enthusiasm and your coach being like that and just dead motivating because it becomes so serious. And I think sometimes you get the best out, don't you, out of athletes when you can still tap into that inner child, so to speak.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I use that. We haven't done it so far this year, but I think normally at Easter time, and I should do this more often, but I think it's easier when the students aren't around and we've got more access to the facility. But I would know at Easter time, we always have an Easter egg obstacle course where we get all types of crazy equipment because it's the back end of the season. We've been at this for
mm,
7 or 8 months, and April, like Easter's normally late March, early April, so it's a good energy boost. Like with 6 weeks to go, we're jumping off boxes, we're crawling under the sponsors through the sponsor boards, there's tunnels, we're doing all types of crazy stuff, and there's all types of sweets and chocolates involved. But they want to, yeah, like you said, it's the enjoyment. The enjoyment gets retention. And I think
mm,
that's where, yeah, I think that's where as a sport, and specifically from the female side of the sport, where you do get a lot of drop off in the female side of things, from under 16s up over that under 16 to under 18 bracket can be one of the ones where the biggest drop offs are. And I think that's where if the girls are starting later and then they're dropping out earlier, the only way that's going to change, I think, is if there's a greater enjoyment. I think for women, I've always found that if they're if they're working hard and they can see the rewards to it, if they can see themselves getting better and they see themselves as part of something as a team, then the retention's there. And I think within all of that, that the thing that links it all together is the fun element. Like that nobody wants to work hard and not enjoy it.
mm.
If you're not getting better, you aren't going to enjoy it. So it's not going to be fun. And if you're isolated and don't feel like you're part of something, again, the retention's not going to be there. So I think if we can, as a nation within the female sport specifically, or this female side of our game, if we can make sure we're ticking those three boxes and make sure fun is the thing that hangs it all together, then, I think we can see the female side of the sport go from strength to strength.
Mhm.
You mentioned most of the like greats of British basketball just before, like just casually name dropping all
Yeah.
these players that you've
Mm,
been involved with. Like, I love it because like those players obviously have gone on to do great things in the sport.
mm,
How is it for you seeing like say Manchester coming to visit and Rhian Bailey's on head coach and Georgia Jones is now like playing still, and
mm.
how is it for you kind of seeing that development and competing against them?
Yeah, it's crazy. It just feels like you've been there for a second, and then all of a sudden you turn around and now these young girls, these teenage young girls, and they're all adults and they've got one or two children, and they're balancing both motherhood and playing professional sports, and to be honest, they make it look easy as well. They do so well to do what they're doing, because yeah, going back to the London team. Savannah Wilkinson, she was in my England under 16 group that took silver medal at the Europeans. Abby Lowe was in that group. Worked with Maya Price and Chloe Gaynor. They were more, I think they're both around the same age because they would have been there or thereabouts. So all these people that are now Sadie Russell, Sheffield, there's you go through every team and worked with the majority of them, and it's so good to see, because you lose contact if under 15s and under 16s. That's pretty much the start of their national team journey. And at times then you kind of they then go off to college, then they come back. So it's good to kind of my lasting impression of them at under 16s is my last contact with them. So then to see what they've become at 22, 24 when they're coming back into the country after playing in the States. And it's great. And it's with quite a lot of them, it's the pickup points. I haven't seen you in 10 years, but we'll pick up where we left off. And it's great to still have those relationships, those positive relationships with those players because they are that not only are that they're not the future, they are the now. They're the now for our country, for British basketball, and it's great to see them take everything to the next level and keep giving back to the game and showing the people below where they came from, like this is attainable. Because at national team level, one of the hardest things anyone will tell you is obviously deselecting somebody from a squad. That is and to do it at somebody who's under 15. So you're talking about 13, 14, 15 years old or 15, 16 years old at the under 16 age, to say you're not ready right now, and that's all they want, is one of the most difficult things. And every time I've had to do that over the years, those decisions will live with me for, I'm thinking about them every day for 2 weeks straight. Every day for 2 weeks, because, did you do it right? Is there another way you could have done it? Because you never want to see it. Like the tears I've seen over the years because of it, it's such a heartbreaking thing. But then to see the resolve from some of those players who have then taken it and said, okay, I wasn't good enough right now, but I'm going to come back next year and I'm going to come back better. Because I always say you'll get some players who will make it year in, year out. Under 16, they'll play 16s, they'll play 18s, they'll play 20s. Some will play 16s, but then get comfortable and won't play 18s. You'll get some that do 16s, 18s, and then get caught up with the girls who missed out in the first two age groups. Will catch them up and they'll make it to the 20s. So the national team dream and the women's professional dream is only over when they want it to be over. If they really want it and they're not willing to let anyone stand in their way and say, this is not for you right now. It's so rewarding because some of those players are in the league. I've had those conversations with, and at the time I stand by my decisions, but it's good to see that they've taken it upon themselves to work at their craft, gain a better understanding of the game, become a better athlete, become a better teammate, become a better basketball player. And then they've gone on to achieve their dreams. They've gone on to play national teams. They've gone on to play college in the States. They've gone on to play professionally in Europe. They've gone on to play professionally in our country. So, I've been blessed to work with so many of them and see their paths and their journeys. And it's really rewarding to see how much they've overcome to get to where they've got to. And like I said, now they are the present, of our league right now. They've got so much to kind of give back and show these younger generations. We have created those British basketball role models that we were crying out for so many years. With the way the league's marketing themselves, the games are accessible by YouTube. There's so many opportunities now for young females to see what good professional basketball looks like in the UK.
So coaching for 27 years, when did you get involved with Durham?
I think next September might be year 13. So that 2011, 2012. Yeah. So when when I left East Durham as a player, I went on to coach at Wickham for 2 or 3 years, and then a job position came up, an assistant coaching job position came back up at East Durham, so I became an assistant coach there. I think 2000 must have been 2006 or 2005, 2007, something along those lines. And in between, I was like a stop off I worked for the Newcastle Eagles for a bit in their community program. Um, and then from there, I ended up went from East Durham as a higher educate further education college to then moving to another one down the road in Hartlepool. And then when I was working there was an opportunity to coach the women's Bucks team. And I was still doing it. It wasn't a full-time thing. So at that time, I was still coaching in Wickham, which is the north end of the region. I was coaching in Hartlepool, which was my main job, which is in the south of the region. And then I was coaching the Bucks women, which is in the middle of the region. So I was just working this triangle. And that was that was at that time I cobbled together a full-time salary from those three jobs. But in that first year that I took the Durham women, we won the Bucks National Championship in the first year, so we defeated the heavily favourites Cardiff Met Archers, which is a a good time to bring them up because they're coming up this weekend. But back in the day, it was Cardiff and it was Sheffield that were the powerhouses of the what was England basketball women's Division One. So at that time in the Bucks game, you had Francesca Whitby who was on that team. Oh, I'm trying to think some of the names now. Sarah Wagstaff would have been on that. I can't remember some of the Cardiff players' names now. Though. But don't think I'm not sure Kate Butters was playing that game, but there was some big senior women that were part of that program, and because in my first year we won that, then they created a full-time women's head coach position at the university for me. So that was in 2011, 2012. That was my first full-time coaching position where I didn't have to work multiple different jobs to cobble together that full-time salary. So in that time, basketball at the university, and especially women's basketball, was relatively new. So there's no history of it at the university. The traditional sports at Durham are rugby, rowing, hockey, and cricket. And at the time, management management were looking to bring in 12 North American players who wanted to study for a full-time master's degree in a year. And the thinking behind that was that with the depth of that program or the depth of that team, it would allow us to play at the top end of the Bucks division and potentially win national champions year on year to create a more marketable program to attract more British undergrads and postgrads to come to the university. Then over the years, the plan was once we had more Brits come in, we'd reduce the North American influence. So we'd have a good mix of both undergraduate, postgraduate British players, but then we'd have a balance of North American players as well. But because the way the leagues were structured, the Bucks competition was never going to be as strong as Division One women as it was at the time for women's basketball. So we never really got that influx of British players that we were hoping for. And it wasn't until that we entered the what was WBBL at the time that we did start to attract the British undergrads and postgrads. So we had the likes of Harriet came back. Harriet was studying, did 4 years in Lafayette, and she reached out to me at the end of her fourth year and said, I'm interested in doing a master's. Um, there's the course at Durham, so she was my first British player actually to come specifically that I recruited, which was a good starting point for me, and it's worked well so far. But yeah, so we ended up, from that, we had Nicola Fairley came down to kind of work at the university and play. So we've kind of over the years we've went from it being a strictly North American postgraduate team to then some undergraduate and postgraduate British players, and then we added the Americans in, but then we also created job positions for the likes of Nikki. Nikki came and worked with our community team full time and played basketball for us. Dee Haywood, Claire Paxton, Molly Campbell came and they were playing and coaching for us in schools. So that was the major turning point for us in terms of attracting more British players to then kind of reduce the North Americans. And in those years, then we went to two trophy finals and one WBBL Cup final in that time frame, and then I think we ended up finishing fifth. I think it was the year before COVID. So, but then COVID hit, and then it kind of scuppered all those plans. That kind of set us back because obviously the budgets for the university were seriously reduced. There wasn't the capabilities to bring people in from overseas because of all the COVID restrictions. So then these past kind of 4 years, we've kind of been building from scratch to get back to the position that we're in right now. So it's yeah, I've seen some very high highs and I've seen some very low lows in the COVID phase, and now I feel like we're coming out of that, and I feel like we're close to turning the corner and this program becoming everything I kind of envisioned it. The crowds are growing. We've got various different things coming on the live stream this weekend. I've got a 3 hour meeting on Friday to sort this stuff out. Oh yes, I don't want to spoil the surprises for you, Rona.
No, please don't.
No. Okay. But if it all comes off on Friday, it's all coming together and I'm taking those boxes off for good. I just spent this afternoon at a volunteers recruitment fair. We've got, more volunteers, staff and students who want to come and do various different things in event management, event support, social media, coaching. So it's getting there. Again, it's getting to the corner. We're not going to turn it this year, I don't think, but we're very close to it being, where we need it to be as a program, where we need it to be as a league. So yeah, the future's looking good.
That would be a question because I think it's very easy. Mark and I, we sit here and we're able to talk about things, but we don't actually have to do everything you guys do. And I think it's really interesting for people listening. Like, how many hats do you wear? Because you were talking about, you're out actually recruiting the volunteers, you're in trying to sort the stream, you're running around sorting mics, so it's like I'm like, where's that stream? And you're like, I'm just trying to do 40 million, so how many hats do you wear within your
Way
role as coach?
too many. I think coaching, and I think it's not just me within our, and I'm sure it's not. I think I've actually looked around just, friends, family, different people in all walks of life. I feel like everyone's job, whatever you're employed to do, more often than not, from what I've found, is the thing you do the least. There's so many different things that have been loaded onto different people's jobs now. So coach, performance analyst, logistics, social media, marketing, game day events management, live streams. Yeah, pretty much everything. I think it is. I know it is, and it is a lot, but I do feel it's one of those things like you either just say, you know what, it's not my job and I'm not going to do it, or you say, I really believe in this and I know this can be something really good and really special, and I'm going to do it and I'm going to show people and I'm going to show people the value of it, and hopefully they seeing that value, that it's something that they want to be a part of and something that they see as special as well. And I generally feel like we're getting there with it. So I am doing, having Charlotte here this year has been a godsend. Charlotte was somebody, obviously, she was my team manager at GB 2 years ago, and she reached out and said she was interested in doing a master's. And I said, come to Durham. I'll give you, your course fees are taken care of. You do it part-time over 2 years, and if it's capable, your course fees are paid for. Come and be my assistant coach. And she's great. Logistically, she's a team manager for Great Britain, so she knows the logistical side of things. So it's been great to be able to offload some of those things at times. She's doing all of my performance analysis for books. So her scout reports they're up there. If I'm telling you they're good because I'm a tough person to please. But yeah, so she's lightened my load drastically. Moving forward in this half of the season, I'm going to be able to kind of give her more and more responsibility, which she's coming here for. So that's going to allow me to focus on more of the general manager side of things, but it's not ideally what I'd like to do. I'd like to spend more and more time on the coaching, but ultimately I'm confident enough that she can handle a lot of the stuff that I'm capable of doing, and it's going to allow me to focus on some other things and bring it all together. And by the end of the year, finishing with a big song and dance as we take on the Newcastle Eagles in the final home game of the 2024-2025 season.
I'm
Yeah.
excited now.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that's me. You've got me. You've sold me.
yeah,
That's your marketing hat right there. I'm like, I'm
yeah.
in.
No,
No,
like, do you talk about the game day experience, and obviously the having that stand makes a huge difference.
hmm
Obviously you've got the coaching kind of sessions the players involved with the kids before the matches, inflatables, which my kids enjoyed when they were there. Um, there has been a big jump up this season.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think everyone's coming for the inflatable, but I don't mind as long as they come. I get more questions about the inflatable than anything else. But I think where we're at, and I say that, lightly, just because our fan base is in its infancy, and probably 95% of our fans are families who have attended our little baller sessions beforehand. And the children that are in those sessions are aging from 5 to 10, with, you're probably a 50-50 split of, so if you got, I think there's 53 of them. So it's a 50-50 split of that 5 to 7 and 8 to 10 range. And the 5 to 7 year olds, they don't have it in them to sit down for 90 minutes and watch a basketball game. That's not who they are. So we've got to find ways to keep their attention where they're in, but then they can dip out and they can go play basketball behind the stands and run. Again, it's basketball. They're not running off to do anything else. They just, if they're watching the basketball, then they're going to play basketball. The inflatable comes up, they're going to tear loose for 15 minutes during halftime. They're going to come back again. But when they're doing that, their parents can rest assured they're in a safe, friendly family environment. They trust that, and the parents are able to engage. So the parents are getting to watch and learn and grow their understanding of the game. The kids are at this early age now. The first time this past weekend was the first time it happened, but everyone's tearing loose with a Sharpie. Can we get the players' autographs? And then, my wife and I are getting messages at the end of the day where um, and this is not just girls and boys, but a family friend of ours, he's 7, um, took his autograph signed T-shirt, laid it out on his bedroom floor when he went to bed, and he didn't want his parents to move it because he wanted to see it when he woke up first thing in the morning. So the girls, our players, are having an impact on both females and young females and girls, but also males. They're generating, they're role models for both, which I think is so encouraging. Um, but that, going back to the game day event and trying to make it, we're only doing a fraction of what I think is possible. But I can't. It's so easy to want to go to the finished product, but I don't have the resources right now. So I've got to take it step by step. I'm continuing to try and build each game, try to do something different, add some different things in, whether it be merchandise, whether it be in-game competitions. There's loads of different things that, I've got ideas for. And then, with off the back of drumming up some more volunteer support today, then there's more and more capabilities. I think it's great. It's just a lot. I'm just so excited for the opportunity to kind of share some of these responsibilities. I don't think the load's going to get easier because as much as I'm not doing it, you still have to manage it. So it doesn't matter how many people, well, the more people you have, the more people you have to manage. So I don't think the workload's going to get easier. It's just going to be different.
Mhm.
So, but I'm happy for the different, because the social media side of things, it's just you guys will often know it just takes so much out of your day, and you've got to be constantly on it. And I've got enough things to do, to then balance all these things like, oh, I haven't done this or I haven't done that. Yeah, it's stressful because you understand the importance of everything, but ultimately there's only so many hours in the day, and so ultimately my job is to prepare the team and coach the team. And I try so much not to let anything get in the way of that, but at times it's I'm at the point now where okay, if you prepare the team and you coach the team, but if then no one's there, then what difference does it make? If no one can see what you've done, again, what difference does it make? So it's hard from a coaching, but someone who takes great pride in what they do and want everything to be the best at all times. It's hard to then I have to accept at times that I just can't plan the way I want to plan, and I can't at times I can't deliver the way I want to deliver just because mentally or emotionally I could be elsewhere because of all of the other responsibilities. And knowing in the back of my mind I still haven't done something that I probably could have and should have done earlier, but I'm being pulled in multiple directions. So, but to see the end product, even as it is right now, and come to an end of a game, a home game, and then be able to look around and see the enjoyment on the families, the kids are running. They've all got the platinum t-shirts now. They're running from player to player. They're creating their signs. One girl, a message on one girl has downloaded a lot of photos and she's making her next poster already for this week's
Oh.
game. So they're making an impact. And I think that's, ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, because unless we create a bigger pool of female players, then it isn't really going to move forward in the direction that we want it to. Because ultimately, when I was younger, I used to think, when you get all these players come back from the States, and then the pool's going to be bigger and this, that, and the other. But then ultimately, in the 4 years you're waiting for them to come back from the States, the players, the older age bracket, senior players are over here, then they're retiring, they're moving on. So the pool's not growing, the pool's just changing.
Mhm.
So we're not, and I think that's where we've got to make the biggest impact. It's got to be at that younger age group, which is, for 2 hours before. So my home game days, I coach a 6 to 10 year old session, 10 to 11. And then, so I'm setting up before the game. Before that, I coach a 6 to 10 year old session between 10 and 11. I help my wife with her 7 to 10 year olds. Sorry, her kind of, yeah, 5 to 7 year old session between 11 and 12, and then instantly there's game warm up, and then there's some issues somewhere, and so, but it's all worthwhile. But because we're working with, and I invest in people say, well, why are you doing that coaching? Because we've got a pathway in place from 18 months old to 10 years old right now. Everyone says we need to start younger. Well, we're starting at 18 months old right now. Do we have any junior teams right now? No. Are they coming? Definitely. Because the enjoyment's there, the numbers are there. We've got 180 kids playing on a weekly basis. We're in contact with another 140 kids in schools on a weekly basis. So our pool of players within Durham is growing, and our opportunity to kind of grow and expand and develop and aid in the development of not just it is a focal point, but not just female basketball, but basketball overall in the county. Because again, you're trying to put eyes on the product. We don't want to just be specific. The females, I'm passionate for female sport, and that should be evident. But we need more people, girls, boys, whatever age. We need them coming. That we need them actively watching basketball, be engaged with basketball, supporting basketball, and that's the only way that basketball is going to grow. So we're doing our part, and that's why, as much as it's a stress on a game day, it's it's as important as the game to me, because if we don't have that, we're not going to have the fan base. If we don't have the fan base, what's the point in having the team? So, we're going in the right direction. That's going to grow more and more. And when the season stops and I get more time to dedicate to that younger pathway again, and I'm going to go back, and that's how I'm going to spend my summer. I'll get ready for next season, but ultimately, while I'm there, I'm not taking those 4 months off. I'm continue to work on my off-season development and continue to give back to the youth. And I also think that's one of the main, not the main point, but one of the points where we may lose retention of players throughout the years is, in Germany with their football teams, they have their most experienced coaches working with their most
Mhm.
inexperienced players. We don't. We've got our inexperienced coaches working with our inexperienced players. And then, from an education background, would you put a newly qualified teacher with a sixth form class? No. Would you put a newly qualified teacher with a year six, 5, 6 class that have to do set exams? No. So from a basketball perspective, why would you put a newly qualified coach in charge of someone's childhood development? Because, as somebody said it to me a long time ago, they've only got one childhood, so you can't mess it up. So if you don't teach them the right things at the right times physically, mentally, technically, tactically, for whatever that is at that age group, um, the chances are they aren't going to grow up to be the basketball player that they could be or should be. And it isn't down to their doing, it's probably down to the coaches doing, other clubs doing, for putting probably not the most appropriate coach for that age group. And it's not a case of, I'm sure clubs don't want that to be the case. And they're only, again, they've only got the resources they've got. But if we can invest in coaches to develop and engage younger players better for their age appropriate stage of development, then the pool's going to grow. We start younger, we have better coaching at the younger. And again, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with the coaches that are there. I'm just saying if for it to grow, we need to invest more in them at that level to then make sure that we've got the retention of players on both sides to make sure the pools continue to grow and for us to maximize and be what we can be from as a nation. Because you've seen it within the national teams that we have teams that are capable of promotion. We have teams that are capable of playing and succeeding in Division A, senior teams that are capable of competing at the top end of the Eurobasket, but we're up and down. It fluctuates. Whereas the likes of, the Spains, they're there and they're there every year, and there's a consistency there because they've got that bit of the pathway right. So from my perspective, I'm trying to do that and invest in that within my own area because I can see the benefits to it. And ultimately, it will pay off. Will it pay off in 18 months' time? Probably not, but I'm not in it for 18 months' time. I'm in it till I stop doing it. So
You can really sense your passion, obviously
Mhm.
for basketball
it's
in general, for
the red
Durham.
wine. The red wine.
But I mean, obviously, we've all got young families, like juggling everything that you've just talked about, everything like with that young family, it must be hard.
Yeah, I think my working week would be I'm off on a Monday morning because my wife has her session. So we have a 3-year-old son, so I have him on a Monday morning. She tags in. I go to work for 3 hours. I go do an after school club for an hour. I come back at 5 and I coach 5 till 8 at with Durham. I work 8 till 8 on a Tuesday, with breakfast clubs, after school clubs, planning, performance analysis, individual sessions, team practices. Wednesday is books. So for the girls who don't play books, like the likes of Marina, Harriet, Izzy, Eliza, we have a small practice with the four of them between 11 and 12:30 on a Wednesday. Then we're either at home at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night or we're traveling around the country to play books. Thursday, I'm off with my son because I work on a weekend, so I take a day off during the week. So I'm with him till 4. I have a junior session now. I run 4 till 5. We have practice 6 till 8. Friday, we have our final team practice of the week is 11 till 12:30 on a Friday, and then prepping stuff and getting ready for the game on Saturday. And then we're either home or away on Saturday and then off on a Sunday. So, but it's one of those things, before you have kids, you think you never have enough time. And then when you have
Oh,
kids, it's like instantly overnight, it's like, oh my God, I've got all these extra responsibilities now. How did I ever think I never have time for these things? Because my son's going to go to school in September. So I'm going to get an extra day and a half back in a week. I mean, I'm not wishing the time away by any stretch because I love my time, but oh, the things I could do with an extra day and a half a week, I'm so excited for. And I think that again, that's one thing less for me to do, uh, but that time will then feed back into more of the game day planning, more of the game day event management, the practices. So it's not like I'm just going to be feet up, which would be nice, but to be able to spread the workload out over a greater time period, yeah, I'm so excited for. Can't tell you.
You mentioned books a lot. What's the how do you find juggling the two teams?
I don't see them as two. I know
Okay.
I see it as one. I don't see I see basketball in a specific way. I have my beliefs in how I view the game and how I see the game being played. And I think within players, I see strengths and weaknesses because there is that in everybody. And I look at them all and I find ways to move them around the court. So everybody's in a position of strength at all times, and I minimize weaknesses as best I can with, I think my I don't know, without giving too much away, but yeah, I feel I always look at it if the David and Goliath story. So if I play specific teams their way, then they're Goliath and I'm David. I'm not going to win that battle. But if I can flip it and I can get people to play the way I want to play, then I'm in a position of strength and you're in a position of weakness. Doesn't matter what your budget is. It doesn't matter how good your players are. So I approach that the same way within books and within um, Super League basketball women. It's hard to get that to roll off the tongue
Well
like WSL.
remembered.
Yeah, I know. You got to pause. So with regards to both teams, we run similar stuff with both teams, but they may rotate to different spots on the floor based on whatever the other makeup of the team. So you just fight again. You just try and see the best in people and how they can best contribute and make sure they know how they can best contribute, and then individually and then collectively make sure there's an understanding between the team that it doesn't matter who, if this person's in this spot, we're in a position of strength. We got to use that. If they're not, they're in a position of weakness, and we've got to make sure we're there for them to make sure they don't get exposed. Because if they get exposed, we're going to get exposed. Um, so I've always tried to approach it that way in every year that we've been in the weekend Super League basketball competition in Bucks. In an ideal world, the players would be the same in both teams, but it's not an ideal world. So, but we practice, within practice on a Monday, we'll split the teams, but mix everybody up. But then on a Tuesday, we might put the Bucks players all on one team, and whatever's left goes on the other team, like Harriet. So you'd have on one team on a Tuesday, you might have Katie, Shanique, Sarah with the rest of the Bucks players. And then on the other team, you'd have Marina, Izzy, Eliza, Harriet. So you'd balance up. But then on a Thursday, we'd load all the Super League basketball players together on one team to compete against the other. But now we're involving and we're going to have men practice with us for the rest of the season. So it's going to allow us an opportunity to kind of keep the teams mixed and balanced so everyone can contribute. But then we're playing against more physical, athletic players on a daily basis now. So with the thinking of, if practice is the hardest thing that we have to play against, then Wednesdays and Saturdays are going to be a lot easier.
Okay, one final kind of conversation thread. Looking
Mhm.
at the league as a whole, obviously it's changed from WBBL to SLBW. What, obviously, in your time in that top league in Britain, what have you kind of noticed about the changes, and how do you feel it's developed in terms of quality of playing, teams, league? What's your opinions?
I think everyone's deeper. I'd say that would probably be the biggest thing. I think that everyone's got a top seven that is I would say is fairly good. And it doesn't, and I know that the budgets change. Obviously, you've got heavy investment now in Oakland, in Sheffield, in Caledonia, Manchester. So but you've seen that those teams have got those four teams have probably got the biggest budgets out of everybody. But then you've seen teams that are 5 through 8 still compete and win. So, and that's a testament to the depth of every team, I would say. Um, and then I think style of play has drastically changed. I think, especially in the last 2 years, I feel like everybody. I think you guys made a comment about it in one of the early episodes where everybody's extending up the floor to press.
Mhm.
And so you're seeing more teams trying to change the game defensively. And if you can't compete with that intensity, then you're going to get exposed because you're never going to get a shot off, or you're never going to get a good shot off. And that's where I think you've seen at times when you've seen the blowouts in the league. I think that's probably, it's not because of the talent. I think it's the talent, but more so it's the style of play, because teams are extending up the floor possession after possession, never allowing you to settle. You're seeing the game being played at more of a faster pace, I think, which is really good, because I don't think for the general public, I don't think people greatly appreciate how athletic these women are, the speed, the strength that they're capable of displaying. But because the style of play is what it is now, I think you're getting a truer reflection of what female athleticism looks like in our country.
Yeah, we were talking about Rhea Harris from Caledonia, being a highly athletic player. Obviously, that game on Saturday against yourselves, um, like we do notice the kind of athleticness is kind of improved as year on year. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Positionally, I think people are bigger at their positions now.
yeah,
So you might back in the day you might have had your three perimeter players maybe would have all been 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". Now most perimeter players are 5'11", 6 foot. Or 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot. I'd say that's a big difference. But I was saying when you look at the players coming out of the States, and it's the same within the college level, you've got the skill level. I think the skill level across division NCAA Division One, Division Two, Division Three, the skill level I'd say is very similar across all levels. But I think physically and athletically, they are the higher division you are, the more physically gifted athletically the players are. So they're taller, they're faster, they're stronger than the players that are at Division Two and Division Three. But the skill level is probably the same. And I think that's probably what you're looking at within our league as well. The teams that have got more money at the top end, they are bigger, stronger, and more athletic probably at all positions. Whereas and as you go down the league, you'll see that the height decreases at each position and athletically it decreases at each position. But the skill level, for the most part, is probably the same.
well, Lee, it's been absolutely fascinating hearing your coaching journey, kind of hearing your passion and your like dedication, I guess, to basketball in this country. And we'll just finish by wishing you good luck for the season.
Thank you guys. Appreciate
Yes.
you guys for everything you do.
But
Keep
no,
up the
yeah.
good work. Keep those hats on. Must
I'm
be a
gonna
top hat.
try. I don't like hats. Understandably why, but yeah, no, it's going to be good. It's all. I think we're in for an exciting second half of the year. And I think there's going to be some twists and turns throughout the league. So it'll be interesting to see when everything settles at the end where everybody is.
Yeah, I like that. I like Jeopardy. I like, we talked about it briefly beforehand that we had the Lions last season. Their budget was astronomical, so of course they were going to be, unbeatable. But I think Oakland's even look beatable. So I'm looking to see where is that loss potentially going to come.
Yeah, I think they're the only ones that haven't had their ups and downs yet, and I think maybe it doesn't happen, but that would be rare. So they're probably
Mm.
there's some up and downs for them probably on the horizon.
Mhm.
Not wishing it upon them, but I'm just saying in team sports, it's
Yeah.
gonna, it catches you up at some point, and very rarely does it not.
Hmm.
Maybe in the Betty Cordona Trophy final against Caledonia, Rona, eh?
Yeah, if I'm getting on a bus for 17 hours or whatever it is to get there, there better be excitement. I know
It should be
what.
a good one. I mean, both they've been so Oakland's have had their number so far, but again, you know, Chantel's got a lot to kind of go from. I think it's always easier coming from a position of a loss in those situations
Mhm.
because they've Oakland's have done what they've done, and now Chantal's had a couple of games to look at it and see where the corrections are. And it's always easier to adjust after a loss than it is to kind of keep anticipating
Mhm.
from the position of Oakland's, where you're looking at what adjustments could they make, would they make, should they make. So it's probably harder to prepare for in that sense. So I think Caledonia may be the sneaky underdogs.
Like it. Let's
We
let's
are
leave
the
it there.
North.
Let's leave the sneaky underdogs.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much, Lee, again for your time, and we'll see you all on the next one.